But really take a look at your leaders, like these guys and gals that are in leadership roles. Like, stop working them so many hours. Let them have a life.
Yep.
There's none of this bell to bell. Shame on you. Shame on you. No more bell to bell.
Welcome to another episode of The Drive. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, Laurie.
Hi, Jason.
How's it going?
How you doing?
I'm so glad we were able
Good
to
to
jam.
see you.
This is going to be fun.
All right, let's go for a ride.
Well, Laurie, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me. I really appreciate it. I know we've been connected on LinkedIn for a while, so it's so cool to actually connect human to human.
Yeah, and people don't believe though that it's real. It is real, and you're real, and your tie really is orange. I was wondering.
It's really.
I was
orange.
beginning to
The
wonder if
shoes,
that was just
everything.
like my resolution on my screen, or if it was really. You look good.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Hey, for everybody that's watching and listening right now and don't know your background and kind of how you got started, let's start with that 2-minute origin story. That is Laurie.
Okay. Oh, so not somebody else's? Okay.
Yeah, we'll go
So
with
my
yours.
real resume. All right. So I started selling cars 22 years ago. Single mom.
Wow.
It's one of those stories, right? So they told me it was going to be awesome and easy, and that wasn't really true. But that's okay because I figured it out. So anyway, I found a business that I saw that even from that position, I saw there was a lot of upside, but also a lot of things like missing in the processes way back then. Like, like why aren't they doing it like this or that? Because I think I was a mom.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, I would do it like this. I'm all time management and best possible outcome. And so from there, I went on to managing stores across the country. And then I went to cars.com, had my dream job. I was speaking in 150 cities a year for 3 straight years.
Wow.
Up,
Talk
down.
about road warrior.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, and it's like, it was great because I got to see dealers, literally thousands of dealers a month.
Yeah.
Literally. And knowing like they really are hungry for information, even from the vendor. And they've got such this appetite, and we've really got to deliver them everything we possibly can. Not just tell them what's wrong, tell them how to fix it and how to get there. So then I went from there to AutoNation for 5 years, and then was doing another stint for about a year for a couple of really cool companies, and then I started on my own this year.
Oh, so that's just this year.
1 year ago, right? 1 year ago, NADA. Yeah.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
It's fun doing stuff on your own, but I don't think people realize how much work it really is.
It's a lot of, you're everything.
You're everything.
These people who say they're the CEO, I'm like, yeah, and tell people also that you're the admin.
Yeah.
And then you have to sign up for every digital service that you need, all the tech stack. That's you.
Well, and anything that goes wrong, it's all on you.
It's you.
It's like
client
my team
development.
makes a mistake, it's mine. Client's got an issue, it's my phone number that they're calling.
Everything that you're doing with all your, there's just a ton of work that goes into everything. But it's really rewarding.
It's so much fun.
And I'll never think about, I think I'm always really good with teams and like everybody working together. I will probably appreciate a support staff at a level that is like astronomically high. Like I'll be like, admin day, I'm like, buying them a house, not flowers. Thank you for these things. Content strategy takes time.
It does.
Yeah, every call takes a little longer than you think. So, but I love it, and I'm very fortunate. It's going
tell me a
well.
little bit about what you're doing for dealerships now.
Right, so it's actually two things. I help dealerships and I help vendors both.
Very cool.
And so with dealerships, really think about performance. And when I say performance, we have a lot of people in roles that are managerial, but they're not really leaders. And so
agreed.
a leader, so I talk a lot about attributes, Jason. Okay. And so I say like not just what is this role. We keep hiring from job roles that are archaic at this point, considering everything that's happened since 50 years ago when a finance director role was established. Yet we haven't really evolved and iterated those roles to match up those attributes. So most managerial roles are really devoid of any real coaching abilities, not just saying, I'm the coach.
We'll train on the activities, but not actually coach on the efforts.
100%. We really haven't, in fairness, we really haven't helped leaders, people become leaders by giving them a real digital awareness and how this all works together and how this can help them. We tell them what to do. Hi, you should buy a CRM, but we don't tell them how to really use it.
Get this widget, buy that widget.
Yeah, and we make a lot of assumptions, and it's really not fair, but it's also incumbent on them to step up. So what I do is I'll go in and help the team all leadership roles, we start saying, okay, and I don't do a formula, but okay, from where your people are right now, what would be natural iterations and expectations that you could have that are, the whole SMART thing, specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant and time sensitive. And let's get these people moving forward and let's let them feel really good, because these people may not stay with us forever.
Sure.
You may not want them to, but let's get them also ready for the next role or the next place that they go to work.
So some employee development then.
Always, especially for the leaders. And when we
Yes.
do that, what we find is that everyone's in here talking about culture and retention.
It's a
and
buzzword.
hiring.
I love culture, but
Me too.
I'll tell you what culture is, and I think there's a big misconception around it. It's like taking your team out for beer and wings is not culture. But they seem to think that that's what I do. I'll go hang out, I'll go bowling with them or something. I'm creating culture. Let's not.
Or smiling faces like this on your ads. We treat our customers, and I'm like, well, what do your people say?
Yeah, exactly.
So I look at it, and I really believe, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I believe that when we create better leaders, like true leaders, no matter what the role, BDC director, leader, the receptionist, the chief leader in charge of, customer interaction, right? When we do that, we don't need to worry about CSI. Our people become ambassadors for bringing people in. You don't have to recruit. People are dying to go to work there because there's this thing that you have.
It's this perpetual machine.
Yes, and your leaders set the tone for the culture. You can't superimpose culture. We're working on a culture program. No, work on your people.
Yes.
Then that because you have culture no matter what.
Yes.
Now just work on your leaders and give them a fair path. And be kind with them and thoughtful,
actual plan.
and build it out.
Whoa.
And recognize them for it.
Yes.
Recognize that, because we recognize, nice job getting that
exactly.
deal
We're
done.
there you go. High
Way to
five.
work until 1:00 last night and be back here at 8 this morning. But we never say, way to take that guy aside and coach him up. He's really improving, and that's all on you.
Yeah,
Way to be. Your coaching skills, Jason, are just really becoming extraordinary. Thank you. You're a real leader here. We appreciate that. Is an asset to our organization.
Well, and it means a lot to the individual, right? Because what you're doing is you're connecting as a human to the person. So they're not, at that moment, all right, it's not just an employee, it's another human.
Right.
And you're just identifying what you appreciate about that individual. I mean, that is so insanely powerful.
So my work is fun.
Yeah,
Because
that would be a lot of fun.
I don't try to convince anybody to work with me. I only work with progressive people because
Isn't
I don't
the
have
best?
time.
It's
Yeah,
the best, isn't
I
it?
don't have time. There are
So much opportunities.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I find that the people who are the most progressive aren't satisfied. They want to do more. They want to do more.
100%.
Yeah, but I don't care. If people right now are struggling, I'll help them get stable. Once they're stable, we can go to successful. Once they're successful, we'll shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny, it's like we want to create a culture that our customers want to buy into.
Right.
And so that's what they seem to focus on first, but actually it's the culture of why your employees want to stay employed by you. That kind of seems to be that first part, and we don't really do a necessarily good job of defining why would an employee want to stay with me.
Now, why would they even want to come there to begin with?
Yeah.
Let's start there.
It's like we want them to embrace our why as a
Right.
business, but we don't take the time to learn their why as an individual.
No, not at all. And I think that's it. And Liza Borchas out from Carter Myers, she's such a great example. Abigail Campman in principal. I'm not intentionally naming a couple women, but wow, that was kind of funny how that happened.
That was fun.
But they're really committed to that holistic experience. I mean,
Yes.
Abigail is really committed to ongoing education for her people, so she brings the education to them. And I'm not just talking about manufacturer training.
Yes.
I'm talking about education, like academia coming into her organization and serving up classes and things like that.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of different models. I think one of the things that I would just encourage all of your listeners is don't just look at how's another dealer doing it. Just go wait, clean slate, whiteboard.
Sure.
What can you do to set yourself apart and be a place that attracts people with leadership attributes, even at the $12 an hour level?
Well, I think that first step is look, we all know what we do, all right? We service cars and move metal, all right? For the most part, I think everyone in our organization knows how we do it as far as training on the activities of it.
Right.
I don't know. I would say a much smaller percentage of dealers that I've met have really defined out why they do it the way that they do it and have communicated that why to their employees.
So I would just back up one thing. The how is cool. They know how to do the job function, but I don't think they know how it impacts the whole organization and all of the pillars within it. Yeah. So then I go from there, the why. And when you get to their own why and your company's why, and when you find people who that aligns nicely, like they will work for you, like no matter what the role, they'll work for you out of purpose.
Yes.
People stop worrying about the pay. Like they know what pay category they fall in, and it was their choice to come there. Like make them want to stay. Make them want to stay. And I would really say, be really careful hiring like upper leadership positions right now, because any progress that you make with that, I'm going to say one guy, one guy can take that whole thing down immediately. So like, you know, you don't want to just, you want to be really careful. Again, you don't necessarily want the GM that's been around 30 years and like, oh yeah, like, well, who did he get his blueprint from?
Well, I think the other question is like, why are we having to hunt for those?
Right.
I mean, if we were developing from the very beginning, then I don't have to hunt for those.
Where's our bench?
Exactly. You know, I got a salesperson. You know, it's funny. Like, why did you get into the business? Ultimately, I want to be a general manager. Whew. You know, 22 years old, wants to be a GM. Okay. You know, what does that path look like for him? Give him that plan. Give him those efforts. What's the next milestone? The next milestone. The next milestone. You're going to get to a point where you're going to get incredibly productive employees, right? Because they have a very clear plan of what they have to achieve to get to what they want to do, right? And then we're not constantly having to hunt for that next role, that next position.
No, dealers across the country right now are suffering from a lack of bench. People are migrating away from our business. They're leaving in droves because we haven't adjusted to the quality of life that people demand nowadays. It's not millennials, it's humans. After we went through the economic downturn, people changed. Not just millennials grew up. People changed. They said, you know, if my house can lose its value by 30% literally overnight, right? If my 401k could get a 50% chomp on it, if my family and I had to be separated for a while so we could each work and keep things going, if we had to think about making tough decisions about where our kids were going to go to school about that, people are like, wait a second, what are we doing? And what is this American dream anyway? So like I say this night, like, yes, of course, entry-level employees are important too, but really take a look at your leaders, like these guys and gals that are in leadership roles. Like, stop working them so many hours. Let them have a life. There's none of this bell to bell. Shame on you. Shame on you. No more bell to bell.
I know.
Stop it.
I just remember. I remember that term so much.
Stop.
You know, growing up. I mean,
it's nonsense.
I appreciate the term because I get a smile out of it because, you know, I did it. You know, but to your point, I don't think that's necessarily. I think a bell to bell now is not necessarily the hours that I put in, as much as the effort that I put in the time that I'm there.
Right. So I do a thing with managers. I can talk to you more about this later, but I look at it and I go like, okay, think about all the things that you're good at, you enjoy doing them, and they make a difference, like both in profit, you know, for the company, volume, whatever, like they really make a difference. Now think about all the things that fill your day, all the stuff you're doing. How much of your time are you spending in that sweet spot? What percentage of your time? And most guys, I'll sit there and I'll go through this entire exercise with them. Most people are like, holy moly, I don't even spend 5% of my day doing the things that are really the things that were the epitome of what made me be able to do this job.
Yes, exactly.
And so then when you could just I say, don't even try to change that overnight to like, oh, now I'll be 95%. Go to 10.
Yeah.
Just go to 10. That's double where you are right now. That's double. 100% more time focused on those things. And I think people will win. Sometimes the answers are right there, but we look at this bell-to-bell thing too with like managers. And when you think there's so much time, A, you're exhausted, B, you always think you're going to get around to it because you think there's going to be time. It still takes highly focused time management to say what is the most important thing to be getting done right now and for my future.
Did you read that book, Deep Work?
I haven't seen Deep Work.
Okay,
Tell me about
I think you'd really like that. Hard work is pretty much all we've ever talked about in our industry for such a long time, right? But it goes beyond hard work. It is deep work. It is just literally getting in there and executing. It's not just working hard, and you're working hard, it's usually because you're being reactive, you know, but it is that intentional planning and strategizing that, you know, throughout my entire day or the 3-4 hours I decide to deep work, all right, that I am going to achieve this, and this. But it takes, you have to be intentional with your time. That is the key of the whole thing. It has to be intentional. You know, we got to stop this whole reactive I don't know.
And everything's
in our
a
industry,
distraction.
Yeah, everything is.
Everything's a
This
distraction.
fire's going off, that fire's going off, I got to go put that out. Yeah.
How about this? When you hear a GM like, oh, well, I'll go out there and I'll pencil a deal. I'm like, oh my God, why? Like, why in the world
Exactly.
would you do something that you have like 3 layers of people that are supposed to be doing? And now I always say to a GM, when you're doing that, what aren't you doing?
Yes.
You're not running your entire enterprise. And Jason, why are we still saying that a salesperson, when you said that earlier, because we all do, salesperson comes in and they think that's the track. These days, from everything I'm even hearing at this conference, dude, I'm looking in the back of the house for the next GMs, right?
Yeah.
Fixed Ops is leading the path with profit, and the biggest difference we can make in the market. I think we've got to look at, again, we've looked at this through one very narrow lens for so long. It's like time to back up and go, wait a second.
I think it's crazy. It is 2020. I've always been a people business.
Right.
And I actually like this time. You know, you've been in the industry long enough where you've seen these dips, these rises, and these plateaus. And, you know, for the last 2-3 years, and probably for the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be in a period of plateau. Mm-hmm. And I always like this. It usually happens every 6 to 7 years. Everyone freaks out every time it happens, right? But I like that because it almost seems to reset everything again. Mm-hmm. And it's like we have to go back and we have to look at our efficiencies, and we have to look at our people, and we have to look at our operational experiences. You know, we're not chasing that next shiny widget. Right. You know, it's getting back to really what makes my business tick. People, the operational experience.
Yeah, it really is. It's important to always just go like, how well are we doing with the fundamentals? What if we had to strip all those things away and you had a pen and paper in your hand?
Yep.
How well could you run your business now?
Anybody could desk a deal.
Oh my gosh.
Anybody can figure out a lease.
Yeah, I used to be able to do those like by hand. Like,
I know.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even, anybody knows what that is anymore. They think that's like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
But no, there is a chupacabra.
Yeah,
and there
there
really
is.
is.
You can actually do it by hand.
There is a lease by hand, but just don't even bother. But I think it's just time to stop everything. I would just really encourage dealers that are like spending more money faster, and then they're going, wait, I look at it like margin compression. We got margin compression going out of time, and we're spending more dollars than ever on tools to sell the cars at less money than ever.
Yes.
That's bad math. I'm always talking about math.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could say data, but I like to say math because that's kind of fun.
That's really what it is,
let's look at the math. Let's look at the math. Like, let's see, okay, if Susie spends $80,000 a month on SEO and makes $200 less a month on cars than she did last year, did Susie make a good decision?
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I take a look and I go, just stop and quit getting in this fever of even trying to catch up and be ahead. Are you ahead? Do you know what ahead looks like? Yeah. Is ahead really impacting your organization? What's essential? What's not? How are my people? How are they not? How am I?
So I have a question for you then. How do I, there's a lot of managers.
Yes.
And I don't know if I necessarily even like the word. I'm 50-50 on it right now. Like, but there are managers and there are leaders. And I've met both and significantly different individuals. You know, how do we get managers into leaders?
So first of all, some of it's just DNA. Okay. You can teach people with leadership attributes. You can teach them skills. Yeah. I think it's a very difficult road to try to go down, to try to turn somebody without those attributes into a leader. Yeah. So what would you say some of those attributes are? So I would just, the thing is, like, if I'm hiring, I'm taking people through the paces that, like, it's not like, well, tell me about how many years on your job and just get feeling really good. Like, oh, I'm grabbing this guy that, he did this, he knocked it out of the park, he had 800% increase at this store or whatever. Like, who cares? Like, what can he do, like, right now with my store? Yeah. Like, right now. So it's not just give me examples. But it's more about, tell me the stories. Tell me, like, how you got there. Tell me what it was that was driving you nuts. Tell me how you spotted that missed opportunity. Yeah. And some of those people, too, that tell you about these massive increases, they don't tell you that it was during the economic downturn and then they had an increase. And like you really need context for the stories, though. Yeah, you have to identify the DNA, right? Right. So I think that the biggest thing for people, like when you're trying to identify leadership attributes, is for yourself, hold yourself accountable to apply context to the conversations that you're going to have with these people. I like that. Right. So then you're just looking for people, are they easy to get along with? Are they team-based? When we hire, like, let's just say, for example, like the lead salesperson, like this guy always took the wall, let that guy be. Yeah. He's a lone wolf. Yeah. Lone wolves are not leaders. No. but they are exceptional human beings.
And there's a place for them.
Keep them. Get them a sandwich every day, whenever they want it. Put whatever, get it exactly the way they want it, and let them go. Get them an assistant. Let them get. We sometimes look at career progression in automotive as only going upwards towards this GM role.
Yes.
What about just going wide and, like you said, deep?
Yes.
And just being like the best, like Frank Crenity out of Georgia. Like, wouldn't you take 15 of him instead of
my gosh,
you put
in a
him into
heartbeat.
management and you just took 100 sales a month off your floor and you got to lead. And Frank would be an exception probably, but like a leader, a manager that may or may not be able to lead people.
Look,
right?
that's a pretty common story you see in a lot of dealerships. Is that the salesperson's been around for a long time and he wants more, and for some reason we're like, okay, here's a GM title. What?
Right. Because in the past that was the path to the next job.
Sure.
Sell a bunch of cars, you become a manager. It's like, that's probably the worst guy. That guy might be out till 3 a.m. every day, but he still has this formula where he's going to get his car sold. He's got his reasons why that works. The reasons for building a team don't work. So I just take a look at are they at the core of them? Are they team oriented or are they self-oriented? I'm not saying either are bad, but different roles require different things.
I think that's true, right? It's not to take a square peg and stick it into a round hole. I mean, let's just, these people are who they are.
Right, and that's okay. I don't try to make people be different. I like to just see people get to the best version of themselves. Yes. And if it's a role where they're going to be leading people, the people under them deserve that, and so does the organization.
Now let's talk about what it means to actually lead people.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of mistakes there, right?
It means to beat them every morning and yell at them.
And whip at them.
Yeah.
Throw things at them.
Oh.
Do you ever have a manager that throws anything at you?
So not only have I had that happen, and to many people in front of me, I actually had a manager, may he rest in peace, totally unrelated, but he thought that I was using the GSM's computer to do something that I was, like, I would never even dream of doing this.
Yeah.
And my GSM had asked me to do something. This GM saw me, came charging through the showroom, bald head, sweating, and he took this L-shaped desk. Now remember, I told you it's an L-shaped desk, not a standard rectangle.
Okay.
And I had gone over to the other side, and he's trying to flip it on me, but it's an L-shape. It's harder to shift an L-shaped desk. Just so this, for all of you who would like to flip a desk, flip a rectangular desk. So then he got more mad because he couldn't flip it. But
Oh my gosh.
there were people watching everywhere, and our training room was upstairs. People heard the commotion. They were looking down, and one of my friends was crying. She thought I was going to die. And I honestly pretty much thought I did too. But so don't do that, because it really does result in heart attacks, as we found out multiple years later. So so don't try this at home. It happened, Jason. I wish I was making that up. But
No, I have.
he wanted to flip an entire huge L-shaped desk with computers on it. Deals were there and people's financial information, but that was 1999.
So picture this. This is young Jason. All right, very very early into sales. Okay, maybe a year, maybe not.
Okay.
All right, and the general manager, through a series of DUIs, could not drive himself to work, and you didn't really see him too often. But on Saturdays, someone would drive him in, and he'd come in with a big gulp. Okay. 72 ounces, which we knew a quarter of that, or if not maybe half of that, was just Jack Daniels. So great guy in the morning. Really fun to talk to, very entertaining. He was attending anger management classes, and as a part of his anger management classes, he would apologize to people with $100 bills. I guess that was what he was valued, and to have to actually give that out would be a pinch to him. So a couple of sales managers thought it'd be really funny if they play a prank on Jason, and they're like, "Hey Jason, can you take these stack of deals over to Don's desk real quick, and just let him know that these fell apart, and we just have to unravel those." And I'm like, "Okay, I didn't know." I'm like, "I don't know what the hell that means," right? No. And I come over and I go, "Hey Don, what's going on? How you doing?" "Oh, good. Hey, just to let you know, I'll just give you these files. The deal fell apart. These are unraveling." "What?" And he starts flipping them over. And he loses it on me. Just loses it. Grabs one of those old keyboards that had the wire attached to it and hits the desk, and you know the keyboards just come off really easy.
they just go
Keys
flying.
go flying
Like
everywhere.
little teeth everywhere.
Yeah, the keys go flying everywhere. Little Jason goes running out of the office. He comes running out of the office. I thought he was chasing me. I'm running out the backside of the dealership. I'm like hiding out next to the dumpsters because I think Don's coming to get me. Like, I'm looking around. He's not there. So then, of course, little Jason smokes cigarettes, car business. I'm out there having a cigarette with, with a few people. And all of a sudden I feel this big monster hand on my shoulder. And I'm like, and I just do one of these. I'm like, don't hit me.
Wincing.
And he's like, I am so sorry, and pulls out this stack of $100 bills and peels off a couple of them and gives them to me. And I'll tell you, today, it was the scariest $200 I've ever made in my entire life.
Right.
Yeah,
I think you'd be better off
everybody in the
like
tower's
selling
laughing
guns
their
or
ass off.
drugs or something. That's a lot safer. Yeah, the guys I used to work with used to drink these drinks called Ripped Force. This was like back in the day, and so like it was like think about like Red Bull on crack, and it's like I would go to my manager and be like, so these guys are turning into like literally beasts, like by this after they like your guys drinking the alcohol, and he's like, oh, they're just having fun. I'm like, no, they're sweating in front of customers and they're like really aggressive, and I'm scared. And yeah, so the stuff we've all
This
seen.
industry has some characters,
some
and
of it's laughable.
Some of it's laughable. I mean, we can laugh at it now,
Yep.
right? But the industry's changed a lot.
Yep.
A lot of new players have come in, a lot of new approaches to people, and I think that's kind of what it is. I mean, look, I think when we started, the approach to people was very much so, like, just do whatever the hell I tell you to do.
Right.
And that approach has changed a lot. So
in most places.
Exactly. So how does a leader kind of take on the role of, managing the people or managing their efforts or overseeing that process and letting that process kind of oversee their people?
Okay. So I would say, first of all, you have to have disciplined leaders who, first of all, are leading themselves.
Okay.
That would be the thing I would watch for. Is like, how is this person leading themselves? Because your people are going to watch.
Yeah,
So like the leader of that leader is going to watch, and the people that work for them are going to watch. So like I would just watch what they're doing back to when nobody's looking, and find out what they're proactively doing. I really look for leaders today to take more initiative and not just. I use the word proactive and reactive all the time. Are they proactive leaders? Have we cut through the whole 5 dysfunctions of a team? Is everybody really able to just talk freely and honestly without chance of recourse for just a friendly observation? Was just talking with some folks with fixed ops. Like, you have these customer service problems that they escalated that because your front line wasn't able to handle it out of fear that they would do it wrong, or they didn't want to tell you. So I would just say, like, having open door policy sounds a little weird, but just like open conversation. Yeah, open conversation. Like, we just talk about things, and it's okay that we have roundtables with our people and say, like, hey, here's where we are right now. Where do we want to be next month? And in relation to our internal retention, in relation to how our customers are feeling about us, in relation to our profitability. So I would get leaders in place that are growth minded like that, like the people, the profits, the processes, all of that. And I would want to see evidentiary proof that they've done that before. Yeah. And so then that leader can start modeling those behaviors so people in their individual roles can start doing that for themselves. And you tell people go set their goals, but they never see a leader set their own goals.
Sure.
Other than like, what's everybody going to do this month? And they just throw a bunch of nonsense numbers on the board. Oh, we're going to sell 987 cars, and they sell 200.
And I think that's a great activity because, I mean, what makes a goal real is when you share it with others.
Right.
When you keep that goal, like,
Totally.
I want to lose 20 pounds, but once I actually tell people that, then it becomes reality.
Right.
And with knowledge comes accountability. So I think that's a great way to lead by example.
Right.
And I'm trying to think, do the leaders or the managers under them actually know what that leader's goals and objectives is?
Right. I think that's really important to just say, I'm not just asking you to have goals. Here are my goals. And I'm not expecting you to tell me how many cars we're going to sell this month. I'm going to tell you the goals I've set. I want to talk with you individually and see what you think you can do. And again, back to what I said earlier, how we help you get there. Not like how do you do the job, but how do I help you like accelerate that? Like, there's a word, velocity. What's your own velocity? Like, is it time? Is it knowledge? Is it customers? Like, what do we need to work on in finding those individual triggers? Because a leader coaches individuals individually. You're Bill Belichick. You do not coach Tom Brady, right? and my former dear love, Wes Welker, who's gone. I'm like, okay, we'll just go to Julie and Edelman. Like, we'll just go to that guy. Like, they're not coached the same way. They're on the same team. They're not coached the same way, right? So, like, you've got to say, what are these people? What are they individually driven by? What does their individual role require? And am I helping them daily get there?
Spending that one-on-one time is definitely going to be key, and I think that identifies more of a leader than a manager.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I remember being in manager meetings where it was more of just here's everything you screwed up on, here's everything you screwed up on, here's everything you screwed up. Now tell me real quick what you're going to do.
Yeah, and go sell some cars.
That's it.
Yeah, and Jason, one thing that we could share with our viewers is this: is like a lot of people talk about one-on-one. Every day do your one-on-ones. That's impossible.
It's really
and most people can't do that well.
No.
So once you say to people, just think about this, like how this translates. We're gonna do one-on-ones every day and whatever. Day one, it already didn't work. So there's no credibility in those conversations. I just say we're going to do one-on-ones as frequently as we can. So now, there's no number set. Manage expectations. And some people need a one-on-one maybe twice a week. Some need one-on-one month. One time a month, but they must be specific to that person. And because right now, when you even say one-on-ones, even every day or every week, they just get thrown together, and the end value is nothing.
There's not
nothing
enough value into it. It's just it's a check-in.
It should be thoughtful.
It should
be here, like, so a one-on-one. If it's going to be a 10-minute one-on-one, you should probably spend 20 minutes prepping for a 10-minute one-on-one, which also makes it physically, because we have this thing called a clock.
Yeah.
Like, impossible to do it every day.
You want to go into it with a plan. It's not just like, hey, John, why don't you just sit down here and tell me how your day's going.
Yeah.
That's not a one-on-one. So what would be, real quick, I know our time's getting up here, but what would be 2 or 3 things that you think that would be super important to include in that one-on-one?
So, there's the first, just check in, like, how are things going? Like, what do you need? Like, what have you done? I would ask first, what have you done most recently to help yourself on the areas that we talked about last time?
Okay, cool. So quick review.
Building in accountability. Here are some things that I need. What do you think about that? How do you think we can approach that together? And what do you think we can all be doing around here to improve? Don't let time build before people have a chance to contribute.
Yeah.
So it's like, where were we? What have you been doing about that? Where are we? What do we all need to do about that? And what could we do at macro? Like, let's just keep a conversation pipeline. 3 things, that's enough to talk about.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say time-wise too.
Yep.
Like, what would you typically expect? What would you say someone should schedule out here? Is this a 30, 45 minute, an hour, 15?
15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Get in and out. Don't make it punitive for you or anybody else, and make it achievable.
Good point. I like that.
Yeah.
It's something that's very achievable.
And they look forward to it.
Yes. And it's not like, oh my gosh, I got a whole hour with this boss.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Laurie, thank you so much for taking the time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great. Anytime. And nice ride.
It was good, right?
I like this. Yeah.